Well, hey there, you guys. Welcome back to another show. I am your host, Janeen Alley, and you're listening to Becoming the CEO of Your Life today. And I am super excited about sharing this topic with you. I'm going to be talking about how to expand your capacity to receive more of what it is that you want on the podcast today. And I am going to be sharing some examples of how I've done this in my life. I'm going to be talking business numbers with y'all today, and it's going to be really fun. It's a really, really good show. I think the examples are really going to help bring some of these concepts to light. So you might be wondering, what do you mean by receiving? What do you mean by increasing your capacity to receive? So I'm actually talking about anything, really, anything that you want on all levels of whatever it is that you're trying to get right now. I know a lot of you are business owners. A lot of you have big projects and visions that you want to create in the world. And so whatever it is that you feel like you need help with that is what I'm talking about today. So it might be more clients, it might be more money, it might be more employees that can help you, but it could also mean more insights, more breakthroughs, more joy, more gratitude, more freedom, more time, anything like that. And I talked about allowing on the podcast last week. If you missed that episode, go and listen to that one when you're finished with this. I think it'll really be helpful. But I did these two back to back on purpose because both receiving and allowing go hand in hand. Sometimes there's some overlap with this. But when we're talking about allowing your life to unfold with less resistance, when we're talking about allowing good things to come to you, it's tied directly to your capacity to receive. And I think in just teaching and being a teacher, being an educator, as well as being a student, repetition is always a good idea when we are learning new things, and hearing a concept taught in a slightly different way is really, really valuable to that. So yes, there is some overlap in what I'm talking about, but it's all intentional. So I want to just start off by telling you that 2024 is turning into be a really incredible year for me in my business. I feel very relaxed. I feel very in flow, and I am making more money than I ever have before in quarter one of the year, but that's not why it's been an incredible year. I made quite a bit of money last year in my business, but it was very stressful and it was very crazy. So I'm in a place I never thought I'd be, where I am able to receive more with less work. And it's actually been surprising. It's been amazing, but I've actually been a little surprised because I've heard other people talk about this, and I'm like, I don't really understand what you're talking about or how that is even possible, but this is where we are. And so I'm excited to share some of my wins to you with you all today, because I want you to see how this has happened in my life. And I am going to be sharing, like I mentioned, some business numbers with you, but hopefully they'll illustrate some of the points that I want to make. So my current business coach always is saying, always, she's always saying this: your capacity to make sales has everything to do with your capacity to receive. And you can swap out the word sales there for anything that you want more of. So your capacity to have breakthroughs has everything to do with your capacity to receive, or more joy, or those examples that I shared in the beginning of the podcast. So your ability to allow and receive is something that we can learn how to do. Fortunately, it does take time and we have to intentionally work on it, just like anything. But I find that it's really helpful to notice a lot of the wins along the way, even though they seem coincidental. So when my income started to increase, this was several years ago, I just thought, oh, it was just a fluky month, or, I wanted to kind of like make excuses for why it wasn't happening because I was doing the inner work. So I want you to, if you have a tendency to do that, I want you to start to notice small little things along the way that are flowing to you because of the work that you're doing. So before I get into specific examples, I just want to talk kind of on a 30,000-foot view. The only thing that truly works when creating the life or business or the goals that you want to have is really the connection that you have with yourself. Anytime that you are trying to create new message or a new direction in your life, you want to have that kind of flowing from your heart. You want to allow yourself to be where you are and at the same time allow the growth and the evolution to take place at the same time. So you're kind of marrying being and becoming at the same time. And this happens through love and acceptance of ourselves and where we are. And of course, the desire to change as we learn and move forward. So you have to work on bringing these two things together when we're talking about receiving, because if you're frustrated that you're not getting a specific result, that frustration in and of itself is repelling the very thing that you want to bring into your life. So you have to be in this space of, like I said, this beautiful acceptance that we have. And I use the word beautiful intentionally. I think there's the acceptance, like, yeah, I get it. But no, you really have to soften into who you are, the results that you're getting currently in order to make those shifts. So, okay. So let me see, I'm kind of lost myself in my notes here for a second. Okay. Let me just give you an example of how this works. Okay. So I want to start kind of going back in time and talking about my business and what I have done over the last five or six, 7 years now at this point. I have gone back and forth between selling courses and having a membership, and sometimes at the same time having both things. And I think over the last several years, I've created both. I've had courses to sell and then a membership on the back end. And it really is kind of hard to quantify at this point how many courses I've actually created. I started creating my own content and teaching things back in 2007, and there have been many iterations of the same thing. And at the same time, I've also created lots of different things. And so anyway, the last course that I created before becoming the CEO of your life was the Burnout Breakthrough. And about a year and a half ago or so, year and a half or 2 years ago, I was really struggling to make sales on this course. I was trying different funnels out, meaning I had like a quiz funnel, and then I had a low ticket offer that, brought people into my world. And then from there, you can do what's called an upsell into the course. There's a lot of different things that I was trying out, but I was really wishy-washy in my price because everything that I was doing to attract people into my world who needed help either didn't have money or they didn't want to invest. And those are two different things. But I could tell that this isn't landing for people. I'm not sure if I'm not delivering the value or showcasing the value of what it is. But what I did was what a lot of people do is I was dropping my price because I kept getting this price objection. So I was lowering my price to, I think the lowest I sold it for was $497. So almost $500. But I was like, okay, what is going on? Like, I clearly have a problem. And I thought I had a marketing problem. And this is important because so often what happens is when we come up against an obstacle, we think it's something outside of ourselves. We think it's external. But so often what's going on is we have an internal problem. We are blocking our ability to allow and receive. And we do this for a myriad of reasons. But what I did to solve the marketing problem that I thought I had was I started working with a marketing expert. And interestingly, she's like, okay, your price is way too low. And she's like, and with the value that you have in the course, plus the coaching, like the package that you're delivering here, you really need to raise your prices. I mean, it really is a lot more. It is worth a lot more than what you're selling it for. And she says, and if we're going to run ads, you're not going to make any money if you're selling a course for $500 because it would all get swallowed up in the client acquisition costs. And so she's like, you need to sell it for at least 3,000. That was the number she gave me. And I'm like, I don't think I can do that. I just had a lot of like, I don't know. And so anyway, we settled on 1,500. And even then I was kind of skeptical. And I sold a few of them and I was working my buns off. It was so interesting. I would do weekly webinars. I was constantly tweaking my marketing funnel. There was so much work. And then less than a year ago, I started really doing this work to allow and receive more. And I actually changed my brand. I created a new brand and I created this idea for a brand new course, becoming the CEO of your life. And I am just in love with this content. I love the ideas that are flowing to me. I love the people who are coming to me. It is this amazing experience, but I was really stuck before that happened on the money mindset piece. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a second. But I want to just tell you, in the process of doing this and creating this and allowing this to come to me, I knew that it was time to cancel my monthly membership, the clients that were in my membership program. And some of these women have been in this membership for years, like 4 or 5 years. I've been working with them and I've gotten to know them really well. And many of them have even traveled to Denver to be in my home for retreats and things that I've done. And it's been an amazing experience working with these people. But they're in the process of doing this and allowing and receiving. The point I'm trying to make here is that you sometimes need to step away from something that is not in alignment with what it is that you're trying to create. And part of that is making more room and more space physically, but it's also, if it's not an energetic match for something, you're going to continue to have obstacles. You're going to have obstacles in bringing the new thing into your world because you're out of alignment. So I canceled my membership in February. And last week, I closed a one-on-one client for $2,000. No, not $2,000, $20,000. That's a big jump from 2,000. So this is a one-on-one client. This is my current one-on-one price. And it was probably the easiest sale I've ever made. And I'm going to say this one more time. Your capacity to receive or to make sales, to get whatever it is that you want is equivalent to your ability to bring these things into your world, your ability to receive these things. So like I said, you need to make room. There needs to be space there in order to receive the thing that you are after. But there's more than that. It's more than just making space. And like I said, I'm going to talk about that in a second. So I want to kind of just, I know that was a lot, so I'm just going to kind of recap this story for you. So about a year and a half ago, I had my one-on-one prices were $3,000 for 6 months coaching. And I had a $500 course that I was struggling to sell. And this is a gradual process. I didn't just go from 3,000 to 20,000. It went from 3,000 to 5,000 to 7,500 to 15,000 to 20,000. Okay, so that was kind of the journey. And it happened in I would say, a fairly short period of time. I mean, a year and a half isn't that long. It could have even been smaller than that, but ish. So 18 months-ish. But like I said, that $20,000 sale was so much easier for me than selling the course. And even the higher ticket items that I was selling before that, everything felt really aligned. I had 2 really high ticket sales that happened over text messages. So it wasn't like, no sales calls involved, no anything. And I've heard of these kinds of stories, but I never thought in a million years that anything like that would happen to me. I'm just like, no, there's got to be hustle. There's got to be work, like hard work involved in getting what it is that I wanted to have. And that is simply not true, because I was able to release and let go and stop resisting. And I was in the space of allowing and receiving. I was able to call these things into my life. And I feel like this is super aligned. I know exactly who my client is. I know exactly the value that I bring to them. And I am bringing in people who are amazing to work with. They are the people that show up, they're willing to do the hard work, and they want to level up. They are eager to hear from me and the things that I have to offer. So that is really exciting. And it's fun for me to be in this space to see how things will continue to evolve and change because I'm growing. So how did I do this? You might be thinking, okay, that's a great story, but how do I do this? Exactly. So you have to energetically be open to receive. And part of this has to do with the way that you think about something. So for example, if you want more clients, if you want higher quality clients to work with, people who do the work, who show up. When I say higher quality, I mean people who don't expect me to do everything for them, right? That I can't do that for somebody else. They actually have to do the work for themselves in order for them to own it. It's like I can't eat for somebody else either. It's the same kind of thing, right? So I used to think that having a lot of money or making a lot of money was a bad thing. It was greedy in a way. It meant that if I had more, somebody else had less. That is a very powerful thought. It was a very interesting thought for me to explore. And what I have come to understand and realize that this is simply not true. Because I have more does not mean that somebody else has less. It's a value exchange. If I am offering the equal amount of value to someone paying me that, they are going to get that much out of what it is that I'm doing. But it doesn't have to mean that somebody else in the world is not getting food on their plate or that they are in a pinch financially because I make a certain amount of money. And it's interesting because we kind of all have this level of comfort. I think that they feel like, okay, this is enough for us, and not and it's interesting how we kind of rise to that occasion and stay there. So if we don't question those things, the money stories that we have, that becomes the income ceiling that we create for ourselves. So if this is true for you, I want you to think about, what is your limited beliefs on this? What is your money story if that is the thing that is tricky for you? And for money stories, what I have found for most people is they're very complicated and they're very ingrained. They're very complex stories. And it takes time to unravel stories like this, but do the work that you need to do in order to unravel those stories and kind of shake off those bands that are currently binding you. So again, this is the work that we need to do in order to energetically be open to receive. The next piece of this that kind of goes hand in hand with that is you have to ask. You have to ask for opportunities. You have to ask for sales if that is what you do. You have to ask for support. You have to ask for what you need in order to make your dream happen, whether it's from other people or whether it's from yourself. So if you need more self-care time, you need to ask yourself for that time. You don't need to ask anyone else. You just ask yourself, how can I make this happen for me? Could be, I mean, there's so many ideas that come to mind, but that is part of the process of receiving, is asking. All right, you have to be physically available. So like I said, yes, in your calendar, you need to be physically available, but you also can't be overcomplicating your life. And I'm not talking about just with your schedule. I'm talking about your life. You want to make your life as simple as possible. And that was the thing. Like, I made my sales process super simple. I just asked. There was a woman I really wanted to work with, and I said, "Hey, I would love to work with you. Are you ready for one-on-one support?" And she said, "Yes." And that was the conversation. I'm not kidding you. I should take screenshots. It was as simple as that. So let me give you another example of this. When I first started really getting into my business and business coaching and working with coaches and things like that, I was in a course or a class that taught uh, one-on-one was kind of the way to go. Like, you do a webinar, you do a sales call, you get somebody into a one-on-one experience with you. And I had a lot of resistance around this because I'm like, this is not a scalable model. Like, I have so many hours in a week. I thought I had a limited amount of time. That is a thought, but it was coming from a very scarce mindset around my time. And I thought I have a limited amount of time available for one-on-one clients. And I also have the same amount of time for for sales calls. And I knew that that was an inverse relationship, right? The more one-on-one clients I had, the less time I had for sales calls, and also vice versa. So it felt very trapped. Like, it felt very caged to me. And because of this, I thought my life was going to go crazy if I did this. And so you can probably guess what happened. Nothing. Right? If you're going after something and you're making it very, very complicated, you're going to end up dropping out of that system, right? In order to get what it is that you want, you have to get something going, anything going, really. I mean, you want to think it through and be smart about it, but you want to get something going. And if it becomes too complicated for you, if it feels like you're juggling too many things, you're in charge of your life. You know this, and you can simplify things from there. So when you are embodying that receiving energy, you trust yourself to do this. You know how to tweak things as the process unfolds because you know you always have your own back, whether it's great results or results that you don't want to have in your life. You've got your own back and you can make the pivots that you need to in order to become more aligned in your processes as time moves forward. But you want to stop worrying about problems that you don't even have yet. This is what keeps a lot of you in that space where you've reached a plateau and you're like, I don't know how to get out of this space. You're not taking action from that place. So often what happens again is we're looking externally. We think we have, back to my example, I thought I had a marketing problem. Sometimes we think we have a systems problem, right? It's not an external problem most of the time. It's an internal issue, and that's what needs to be addressed. So again, you want to focus on building a beautiful connection and relationship with you. You have to know how to access your intuition and your inner wisdom and go from there. And I understand that there's some resistance to this, but it makes your life so much easier long term because you are connected to that. So you can think to yourself and answer the hard questions like, okay, what do you want? What do you really want out of life? And for a long time, I thought, for example, back to another business example here, I thought I wanted a really big business with a lot of clients and a lot of things going on. That is not what I want. And I didn't realize that until things got going. I actually thought, because I was in the wellness space, I'm like, I want to be like Chris Carr. She was kind of the person that I looked up to in that space. And she has a membership, it has thousands of people in there. And I don't think she creates really powerful connections with anybody. And that is something that I really, really value. I wanted to have amazing relationships with amazing clients. I wanted to get to know them. That's something that I highly value in the work that I do. And that's exactly what it is that I have been able to call into my life. And I am so grateful for the women that I work with, not only in my own business, but also in the work that I do in the nonprofit organization that I work for. I work either in a small group setting or in one-on-one situations, and that's exactly what I've created in my business. I have a group coaching program for becoming the CEO of your life, and I also work with really driven, amazing people in a one-on-one capacity, but I only have so many slots for that, so I really vet that process pretty heavily. So I think sometimes we think we know what we want, and it isn't what we really want, and it's surprising how many people don't really get clear on that. And so if you need help with that, this is exactly what I do inside of becoming the CEO of your life. I walk you through this exact process. But this is what is required for you to to be able to receive more, is you need to be more in alignment, and ultimately you'll have more joy and more fulfillment in your life because you're attracting the things that you really want in your life. You'll have, if you have a business, you'll have a stronger business, you'll have stronger relationships with the people that you love. I mean, all the things that you want. So, okay, let's see. I kind of got ahead of myself. I went a little off track there, so I'm coming back to my notes. Okay, so some of the best advice that I've heard lately is you can't start training for a marathon in the middle of the race. This is the same with creating the core connections that we want to have. In the moment when you are needing that inner wisdom, that's not the time to create a relationship with you. You can't do that in the moment. This has to take place over time. So there needs to be consistent systems in place in order for you to create that connection. And it's interesting because the more that you do this and the more that you understand this, the more you're like, of course, yes, this is right. But if you don't understand this, sometimes it's be like, I don't really know. But the way that you know you're off is you keep having the same problems no matter what you try externally. I know you hustle. I know you invest. I know you've got coaches, and yet you try the same things over and over and over again, and yet you still have the same result. That's how you know you have an internal problem. So if that's true for you, if you feel like you keep bumping up against the same plateau over and over again, that is what is going on. All right, my friends, that is what I have for you today. I hope that this episode was helpful for you. It was really fun for me to put together. If you loved this episode, please leave me a review on the podcast. It would really mean the world. And if you were thinking about somebody in particular while I was talking, please share the episode with them. Like I said, it really goes a long way. Word of mouth is the best way, I think, to bring people into the things that we're excited about, right? And so if this made a difference, that would be helpful. So if you are also looking to do the inner work to help you embody more of your energetically aligned message and get to be in that space where you are allowing and receiving more of the good things that you want to have in your life, but you're not exactly sure what to do, let's jump on a call together. I have what's called a 15-minute unwavering woman assessment where we can find out where you are and what your next steps are. This is not a sales call. This is not a high pressure call. This is just an assessment. So if you're interested, I would love to connect with you. Just go ahead and book your call at janeenalley.com/CEO, and I will talk to you soon. For everybody else, this was a fun episode, like I said, for me to create, and I will see you next week. Same time, same place. All right, you guys have a great week. Talk soon. See ya. Bye.